On the battlefields of World War II, a soldier simply couldn't count on reaching a hospital when wounded. Evacuation was slow, field medics were often overwhelmed, and, well, blood loss was honestly one of the biggest killers out there. In those desperate moments, survival really came down to quick action and these field-tested hacks that worked when nothing else was available. One particular method, often overlooked in modern discussions, actually proved to be a real lifesaver. It wasn't about high-tech gear or advanced medicine. It was about simple, effective ways to stop bleeding fast, using only the tools at hand. And you know, this isn't just history, it's knowledge that can still be applied today, especially when modern care is out of reach. Soldiers needed immediate ways to stop blood loss before medics could arrive. During the Second World War, medics were rarely the first to reach the wounded, you see. Ordinary soldiers had to act quickly, often under fire, just to keep a comrade alive. The first priority was always to stop bleeding just long enough to give the body a fighting chance. Hemorrhage, especially from limb injuries, could kill in mere minutes if left untreated. This harsh reality forced armies to train their men in quick and effective field methods. Tourniquets, whether improvised or issued, were common, but, you know, they came with their own risks. A tourniquet could save a life, but if it was applied too tightly or left on too long, there was a real danger of cutting off blood flow permanently and causing even more damage. So, soldiers relied on a careful balance, using direct pressure when possible and only turning to more aggressive measures when absolutely necessary. One of the most widespread, but, well, often overlooked solutions was the use of sulfonamide powder. Issued in small tins or packets, this early antibiotic compound was carried by many Allied troops. When a soldier was wounded, his comrades would pour the sulfur powder directly into the wound before applying a field dressing. This not only slowed bleeding by helping to clot, but also reduced the risk of deadly infection, which in World War II was often just as lethal as blood loss itself. The dressing itself was simple but effective. Every soldier carried a field dressing, essentially a sterile pad wrapped tightly with gauze. Combined with sulfur powder, it created a two-part solution: clotting and infection prevention. With pressure applied, bleeding could often be controlled long enough to get the injured man to a medic or field hospital. What made this method powerful was its speed. In under a minute, sulfur powder could be applied and the wound wrapped tightly, transforming a potentially fatal injury into one that was survivable. Not every soldier had sulfur packets available at the moment of injury, and in those cases improvisation was key. Soil, leaves or cloth could not be trusted, as they carried infection, but soldiers learned to rely on simple pressure with clean material until proper dressings were available. In colder theatres, snow was sometimes pressed against wounds, briefly to slow bleeding, though this was a temporary measure. The core principle was the same: stop the blood flow with firm, sustained pressure. If you had sulfur powder, it increased survival chances significantly. If not, the soldier still had a chance with fast and decisive action. In a modern context, sulfur powder has been replaced by more advanced clotting agents like quick clot or Celox, which are used by militaries and first responders. But the principle remains the same: clot the wound, prevent infection, and maintain pressure until professional help arrives. For survivalists, campers, or anyone preparing for emergencies, this lesson from the Second World War is invaluable. A modern first aid kit should include a clotting agent, sterile dressings, and a way to apply strong pressure. But even without those, knowing how to act quickly, pressing down firmly on a wound and maintaining that pressure, is a skill that can save lives. If you were in a remote location with, limited gear, carrying a compact clotting powder or an impregnated bandage can really be the difference between life and death. The World War II soldiers who carried sulfur were practicing the very same principles survivalists should today. Always have a fast-acting way to stop blood loss. Right, so the first step is speed. Bleeding needs to be addressed immediately, without hesitation. Open your kit, apply the clotting agent directly to the wound, and follow it with the dressing. Now, the second step is pressure. It is not enough to just cover a wound. You must press down hard enough to slow or stop the bleeding. In World War II, soldiers often tied dressings as tightly as possible, then reinforced them with belts or strips of cloth if needed. The third step is monitoring. If bleeding continues through the first dressing, do not remove it. Instead, add another layer on top and keep pressing. Removing the first dressing can pull away clotting material and make the bleeding worse. The forgotten field hack of World War II, sulfur powder plus pressure, was more than just a medical trick. It represented a philosophy of survival. Act immediately, use what you have, and give the body the best chance to endure. Thousands of men survived because of this simple method, carried out not by doctors, but by fellow soldiers who refused to let them bleed out. For history enthusiasts, it is a reminder of how resourceful wartime medicine had to be. For survivalists, it is a direct lesson that can be applied in the field today. A packet of clotting powder, a sterile dressing, and the knowledge to use them correctly could one day be the difference between life and death. If you value this kind of history-backed survival knowledge, keep exploring these forgotten lessons with us. Make sure to subscribe to In the Beginning and share this video with others who are serious about both history and preparedness.